The gavel struck hard against polished wood, and the courtroom froze in stunned silence. The judge's voice carried with it an authority meant to end arguments, not invite them. Yet what he demanded cut deeper than a ruling. It reached into the marrow of a man's honor. He ordered the tomb guard standing before him to remove his Medal of Honor. Remove it, strip it away, as if the blood, sweat, and years that earned it could be erased by decree. The veteran's chest rose and fell with slow restraint. He did not speak. He did not plead. His silence was thunder, and every eye in that room shifted between outrage and disbelief. The guard stood straight, shoulders square, his uniform crisp, even under the weight of humiliation. Bronze, silver, and gold embroidery caught the light, but it was the simple ribbon and medal pinned over his heart that carried the gravity of graves and sacrifice. The judge's demand was not just an attack on him. It was an assault on every soldier he had buried, every promise he had kept at the tomb of the unknown soldier. The guard did not move to obey. His hand never rose to unclasp the medal. He stood as still as stone, a sentinel in court as he had once been on sacred ground. His name was Staff Sergeant Daniel Harrington, though few outside the military ever remembered the names of the tomb guard. To the world, they were faceless sentinels, eternal watchmen of America's most sacred silence. To his brothers in arms, Daniel was the one who never faltered. He had walked in freezing rain with pneumonia, never breaking stride. He had buried friends without shedding a tear until the gates were shut and the world no longer looked at him. And now he was here, a veteran accused of misconduct in uniform, facing a judge who believed his silence was defiance. The air in the courtroom thickened with tension. The prosecution painted him as stubborn, unyielding, disrespectful to the authority of the court. But the truth lay buried beneath years of discipline. Daniel's silence was not defiance, it was dignity. He had given more to his country than anyone in that room could comprehend. And for that sacrifice, he carried not pride, but scars invisible to the casual eye. His back still bore shrapnel, his hearing was half gone from explosions, and his nights were haunted by the smell of smoke, the sting of sand, and the sight of brothers who never came home. The medal pinned to his chest was not vanity, it was survival immortalized. The judge, stern and impatient, leaned forward. He was a man of order, blind to sentiment. To him, Daniel's refusal to comply was contempt of court. To the gallery filled with spectators, it was something different. Some looked away, afraid of being seen sympathizing with the accused. Others stared, wide-eyed, torn between outrage at the judge and awe at the unbroken soldier. But how did Daniel reach this place? Where a man sworn to silence at the tomb of the unknown soldier now stood accused before the law. His story was not simple. It stretched across continents, through deserts where the air smelled of burnt metal and gunpowder, through nights where the stars blurred behind smoke and trace of fire. He had been only 19 when he deployed for the first time, barely old enough to drink, yet already entrusted with life and death. He had walked village roads, where every child's smile might conceal a trap, where every doorframe might hide an ambush. He carried with him not only a rifle but the weight of promises. To his mother that he would return, to his brothers in arms that he would never abandon them. On his second deployment, the convoy was ambushed, the air filled with dust and fire, screams muffled under the deafening roar of explosions. Daniel pulled 2 wounded men from burning vehicles, his own arms blistering as the flames licked at him. For that act he received the Medal of Honor. But medals are cold things compared to the lives lost. He wore it not as pride, but as burden. He once whispered to a fallen friend's grave, "I don't wear this for me. I wear it for you, for the ones who can't." When he returned home, Daniel sought a life of discipline, of quiet service away from chaos. He became a sentinel of the tomb of the unknown soldier. In the stillness of Arlington, he found a kind of peace. Rain or shine, day or night, he walked the 21 steps, turned, paused 21 seconds, and repeated, guarding those whose names were lost to time. He was a man built for silence, for reverence. The world outside the gates of Arlington felt loud, crude, dismissive. But here silence was honored. and silence was his gift. Then came the trial. A confrontation at a public ceremony had led here. A politician had mocked the guards' rigid silence during a wreath-laying, calling it unnecessary pomp. Daniel, true to his oath, had not replied, but his silence had been seen as insolence. The incident snowballed into a charge of misconduct. The courtroom became an arena where rules clashed with respect, and where dignity was on trial more than any single man. The judge's demand for him to remove the medal was the sharpest cut yet. The medal was not the court's to strip. It had been earned on a battlefield, paid for with blood and pain that no courtroom could understand. Daniel's fingers twitched near the medal, but he did not obey. His silence deepened, his eyes locked with the judge's, calm but unyielding. The spectators held their breath. Somewhere in the back, an older man in uniform shifted, the rows of ribbons on his chest, whispering of his own sacrifices. He leaned forward, his gaze sharp, as if waiting for the moment when truth would break through authority. The room smelled faintly of polish and dust, but underneath lingered something more intangible, the scent of moral tension, heavy and suffocating. The prosecution continued, speaking of law, of discipline, of the need to humble soldiers who thought themselves above rules. Yet their words felt small compared to the silent giant in front of them. Every syllable spoken only magnified the weight of Daniel's refusal to bow. He became a living statue, embodying something no gavel could shatter. And then came the shift, subtle at first. A whisper ran through the gallery. A few men and women in uniform, scattered through the crowd, rose quietly to their feet. No words were spoken, no orders given. One by one they stood, their hands clasped behind their backs, eyes fixed forward. They mirrored the guard's stance, forming an invisible wall of solidarity. The judge noticed. His jaw tightened, his authority challenged not by rebellion, but by honor. Daniel did not move. His silence commanded more than any speech could. The line between power and respect blurred, and for the first time, the judge's gavel felt small in his hand. Finally, Daniel spoke. Not many words, but enough to etch themselves into the hearts of everyone present. His voice was calm, measured, almost a whisper, yet it carried like thunder. He said he could remove the medal if ordered, but no judge, no politician, no man alive could ever take away what it represented. He said he stood for the nameless, for the voiceless, and that silence was their language, not defiance. The courtroom trembled under the weight of those words. Silence followed, deeper than before, but this time it was reverence, not tension. The standing veterans remained at attention, their presence amplifying his quiet resistance. The judge, flustered, attempted to regain control, but the power had shifted irreversibly. Authority had collided with unshakable dignity and faltered. The trial ended not with a ruling that day, but with an image. A soldier who refused to bow, and a gallery of silent comrades standing in his defense. Outside the courthouse, word spread quickly. Crowds gathered, some veterans, some civilians, all moved by the story of the tomb guard who would not surrender his honor. The judge's reputation faltered, his career unraveling as the public saw not law but cruelty in his demand. Daniel, however, remained unchanged. He returned to Arlington, to his silent vigil, walking the 21 steps beneath the open sky. And though he said little more, his stance became a living lesson, that true honor is silent, unshakable, and not granted by courts but by sacrifice. Veterans across the country repeated his words in gatherings, in homes, in memorial services. They called it not defiance, but dignity. They said a soldier's silence can speak louder than 1,000 voices, and Daniel proved it. In the end, the man who tried to strip him lost his seat, his reputation shattered. But Daniel lost nothing, because what he carried could not be taken. The crowds that once sat in judgment now stood in respect, heads bowed, eyes lowered, in a silence that matched his own. The story of Staff Sergeant Daniel Harrington is not about medals or trials. It is about unseen battles. The kind fought not on fields of war, but in the quiet chambers of honor and respect. It is about the strength to stand when the world tells you to bow, about the dignity of silence when noise demands obedience. So when you hear of the guard who refused to remove his medal, remember it was never about the medal or the ribbon. It was about every unknown soldier, every lost voice, every man and woman who gave everything so that silence at Arlington would remain sacred. And now, to you watching, where are you hearing this story from? What does respect mean to you when silence becomes a shield? Share your thoughts below. And if you believe stories like Daniel's deserve to be remembered, join this community, subscribe, and carry his lesson forward. The some honors are beyond the reach of power, because they live not on the chest, but in the soul.